Hello. Whoa.
Hi.
We're back. It's Saturday. Mini Son of Monsterpalooza. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We're really close to being on time today, and hopefully everything's looking better, sounding better. So thanks for coming back. I want to thank all of my guests from yesterday. I don't have the list in front of me. I mean, we had Tom Woodruff, we had Gordon Tarpley, we had Alan Scott from Legacy FX, we had Mike Deek, Tamara Woodard, Don Deininger, Ken Calhoun, and Piff Phillips. And come back on my Instagram. You can watch those guys anytime, all of those interviews. And I'm going to say right up front, I'm really sorry because I know I'm supposed to be building something live, and I'm getting so many great guests, and they want to come in, they want to talk. I want to have them here and talk to you guys and take your questions. And so it's very little time to build. I'm hoping at the end of the day I'm going to start whittling at some foam, and I'm definitely going to be doing some Instagram live, just me and some foam, whittling away, carving and sculpting. So a lot of that is to come. So please bear with me, be patient. I know some of you really want to see me build, and I've got a project to do. It's sitting just off camera here for me to start on. So hopefully at the end of today, maybe a little bit at the end of tomorrow, something like that, we can start. But definitely next week, I'll be announcing when I'm going to be going live with some of that stuff too. But today, starting out Saturday, very old friend. Well, no, he's not really old. I've just known him for a really long time. We have constantly stayed 30 years old. It's amazing.
Yes, it's incredible.
I have Mr. Mark Tavares, artist extraordinaire, who I met at KNB FX Group. Welcome, Mark.
Hi, thank you for having me. This is amazing. I didn't realize what this was going to be, but I really am impressed at what you've put together, because everyone we know is kind of depressed with this whole quarantine situation.
And that's what this is about.
Yeah.
Get everybody out of their depression.
Exactly.
Get creative.
I mean, you adapted. You made it work.
Yes.
And really impressed with what you've done so far.
Well,
so.
as I said to everybody, welcome to the convention
Hopefully
center.
I won't ruin it.
Don't ruin it. Well, real quick, I mean, what have you been doing since? I mean, I know everything kind of shut down a little bit. So what have you been doing? You been busy, or did you hit a low and then come back up? Or?
No, I've been kind of lucky, just because basically I transitioned out of effects work because, like you said, we used to work together years ago. Worked for Don Post Studios for a time until, unfortunately, his business closed. And at that point, I just made the decision, with the wonderful support of my wonderful wife,
just off camera,
to pursue my own artwork. You know, that wonderful goal that we all have. And
I have one of those wonderful wives over there that lets me stay home and do it. Thank you, honey.
So I've been doing that for a number of years now, trying to make that work and different things.
How long have you been out of the shops?
Since 2006. Yeah, that was a bizarre time, because it was like things were kind of, the business was ebbing a little bit, and I don't know. It was kind of time to make a decision, especially since there were a lot of really talented young whippersnappers coming up behind me. The jobs that were available were being filled by people who were a hell of a lot more talented than I was. So it just was time for me to make a decision. And Don had offered me work, and his stuff was of a completely different and fun and cartoony nature, which is kind of more my speed, because I think the business, from what I observed, was sort of shifting in terms of the quality of the work. I mean, I can see it at KNB, because after I left,
after you left, things got better.
It's amazing. No, I mean, they started on Walking Dead and things like that, and you can look at stuff from, say, the 90s and stuff from now, and it's like, maybe it's, I don't know, the digital photography, things like that.
What was the term we used to use? Was boogity.
Boogity, yeah.
Things were like a little bit more, it had that Bernie Wrightson quality to it, kind of drippy and oozy and, kind of scary. The dog is going crazy. This is live, everybody. So,
but yeah, it was.
We're told to be sure to make Mark draw something.
Oh no.
Maybe I will, Henrik. Okay, just
was that Henrik? Oh, wait a minute. Let's give a shout out to Henrik Van Ryzen, our old friend from KNB as well.
From KNB, exactly.
So, and if anybody doesn't know who Henrik Van Ryzen is, please go check out Van Tiki on Instagram.
Yes.
And at Van Tiki, or
yes,
brilliant artist.
Yeah.
And I wish Henrik lived down here in the area, because he would be sitting here as well.
Yeah.
So there you go. We'll make
amazing ceramics.
Yeah, amazing,
Yes,
amazing.
So
anyhow.
Yeah, so you were saying basically boogity. Was kind of
so it was a drippy, more like I said, Bernie Wrightson-ish, like that, and it was that era. But then it started to get really
more
detailed,
finely
really
detailed,
fine.
And I would notice things like one of the last shows. The last couple of years I was there, I was kind of in and out of the shop, and just as an example, I think Nick Mara and Dave Grasso were sculpting the snake for a Lemony Snicket. The first Lemony Snicket film or something like that. And it's this huge long snake puppet they're working on, and they're going blind doing scale detail.
Right.
And it's one of the most beautiful sculptures you've ever seen. And it's like, I realized I can't really do that. That's not my thing. I'm more cartoony, I'm more out there. And so Don offered me work. I was doing work on the side for him since 2001.
Don Post.
Don
right?
Post.
Don Post, yeah.
And he said, I could take you on full time if you want. I've got plenty of work for you.
And done.
Yes. And it was a great honor to work for him. And he's just, like the guys at KNB, one of the best bosses you can have. I mean, it was just such a good time. And unfortunately, the business shifted, and the parent company decided they wanted out of the Halloween business, so they sold off Don Post Studios.
That's a shame. How long was Don Post Studios around?
Oh goodness, since
because we all saw it as kids in Fangoria and whatever.
I want to say like late 30s or something. I'm not.
Really?
I'm not exactly.
So there was
sure
Don Post, and then there's Don Post Jr.
Yeah, Don Post Sr. His dad started the business,
Okay.
and then Don came in, and when Sr. passed, Don just became Don Post basically.
Okay.
But he's still Don Post Jr.
So those are the masks that we knew when we were kids.
Yes,
Or?
yeah.
Okay.
Those are the ones you always saw in Famous Monsters,
Right.
and that every head shop and joke shop and whatnot had on their walls.
We
and
talked
stuff.
about it a
Yep.
little bit yesterday. We had a head shop in our my hometown, a small little town in the Midwest in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
But you'd walk in the front door,
Yeah.
and I would walk in there every Saturday, 8, 9, 10 years old, and it was just a wall of Don Post rubber masks, and I would just stand there and just smell the latex rubber.
It's incredible. Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Well, and working for Don too, it was like he had moved several shops by that time,
Right.
and even when I was working for him, they moved to slightly smaller quarters and things like that. But they still had stuff there from the beginning.
Wow.
There were a couple of desks and tables that were from the very beginning of the business and whatnot. So they didn't have any of the original molds for things. Because I'm looking for like Metaluna Mutant. Can I find it?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Oh, there's one
no,
right here.
They don't have it. Hey! I love that, by the way. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'll pimp something a tiny bit. Somebody who's coming on later on today is bringing some original Don Post.
Really? Oh my goodness. Okay. Very
I
cool.
think you can look at the names on the list here. I bet you can guess who's going to bring something.
Gee, I wonder.
At 1 o'clock this afternoon, folks.
Monster Partier himself.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So yes, Don Post. After you left KNB, you went to Don Post.
Went to Don Post, that closed, and then, like I said, I've been doing.
No,
my
what were
own
you doing
artwork.
for Don? Were you designing or sculpting or both?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah. I had done some stuff again. When I first started for him in 2001, it was just for a couple of weeks at the beginning of the year, where I would
Right.
go and do some.
Say hello to the shop dog.
Hello, shop dog. I would go and do some design drawings, and then the guys in the back of the shop would take them and sculpt them up and whatnot. And
Right.
that was just great fun.
Okay.
And then he would throw a sculpture my way when he had some extra. And then finally, when I went full time for him, which was different because it was like he said, "Oh, you can work from home." Really? Okay, thank you.
Oh, darn.
Yeah. So I was able to set up my garage shop and
Before working at home was a thing.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it was kind of interesting because we
Right.
coming up, we always heard about the effects people that we ended up working for who started in their own little garage
Right.
shop. So you always kind of fantasized about having that.
Right,
So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I know you're a brilliant illustrator and painter and all that stuff. So when did all that start, though? I mean, at what age? I mean, did you just
God.
born with a pencil in your hand or a Sharpie?
I wasn't born with it in my hand. No, I don't remember.
But it was quickly placed in your hand after the birth.
I mean, I've always loved to draw.
Right.
As long as I can remember. My parents used to be antique dealers,
Okay.
and I grew up in Massachusetts.
Okay.
And so every weekend we would either be going to some other state in New England to do antique shopping, or to do an antique show where they would set up a booth and
My wife is going to want to talk to you.
okay. And so I didn't spend a lot of time at home with kids in my peer group, things like that.
Right.
So I was I was either buried.
This is sounding familiar.
We'd go on these trips, and I'd be buried in a comic book.
Sure.
So or drawing something, or playing with Legos, or whatever it is you do as a kid. And I remember just starting to draw, and eventually I wanted to be a comic book artist. That was my first what I want to be when I grow up.
Right.
But I have like an attention span about that long, and so trying to draw a full comic book story just really wasn't in the cards for me.
Panel 1, panel 2. What's the next one?
Okay, there you go. Yeah, it's like, so I'd rather just draw figures.
Sure.
And then I don't know when the caricature thing started, but I think I was a shy kid growing up, and what I found was that in school, that was a real icebreaker.
Right.
I had other friends who were like photographers and things like that who'd say they walk around with a camera because that was their icebreaker.
Sure.
For me, it was, oh, I can draw a funny picture of the teacher, that kind of thing. And I would get in trouble for that. But yeah, because you remember the days when we would cover our school books in
brown paper bag.
Stuff. Yeah,
shopping bag.
So you didn't want to just write math or physics or something.
I jazzed mine up.
No, you got to put some pictures. So,
Yeah.
but you don't want to put pictures of the French teacher. That's just not
what you do.
That's
That's the inside cover.
But that's kind of where that started, because I always get a very positive response from that. So,
Right.
Yeah.
No, and I remember, we can talk a little bit about that. I mean, when I first started working at KNB, and I meet Mark, and back in those days, we usually all had like our own at least 4x4 table or 4x8 table sometimes, and we would cover those with brown butcher paper to protect the table, and spills, whatever, we rip the paper off, throw it away, repaper it.
Right.
Mark's table paper, wherever he's working, that's his frame for what he's working on. But then everything beyond it was like, Ted did something funny. Howard Berger did something funny. They're getting a cartoon. Greg's doing something funny. Funny in a sort of like, look at this here.
And Howard Berger did something funny. And Howard Berger did something funny. And Howard Berger did something funny. He was probably the best sport out of all of them. I mean, actually, no. Greg and Bob were great sports too. But I mean, Howard bore the brunt of my stuff. As a matter of fact, the joke used to be after a while that I could never get a job as a police sketch artist because every wanted criminal would look like Howard Berger. That's what it would, so.
And Howard Berger would be going, why are you taking me?
Again?
Mark Tavares.
Yeah. But that was speaking of an icebreaker kind of thing. I mean, I came out here with a terrible portfolio straight out of college. I went to college at Emerson College in Boston, Massachusetts. A well-known speech, communication, film, TV. It's all about the communication arts and whatnot. And they've got a big following out here, whatnot. It's like it irritates my wife basically that so many companies out here, hey, you went to Emerson? Hey, you're hired, that kind of thing. Yeah. So I thought that'd be great out here. I'm going to Emerson, but of course that had nothing to do with makeup effects because all they had there was like a half semester makeup course, theatrical makeup course. So I came out with this terrible, terrible portfolio full of just. It was just junk.
Does anybody show up with a brilliant one? At least back in those days.
Yeah. There was a guy I worked with at Kevin Yeager's shop named Pete Koenig.
Okay.
Brilliant sculptor. He came from Northern California, and I remember being at KNB my first year there and seeing his tear sheet, his portfolio tear sheet, sitting on the desk.
Yeah.
And he had like this beautiful chimpanzee sculpture and a couple of fake heads and things like that. And it's like, and this guy apparently was new to the business.
Right.
I think he'd worked on one movie like that shot up in Northern California. And so I ended up working with, he became like the lead sculptor at Kevin's, I mean, right out of the gate. Just an absolutely stupendous artist. And then he went on from there to work for Phil Tippett. And so, so to answer your question, yes, there are guys, but I came into this late. I started sculpting when I was like 19 or 20.
I mean, my portfolio was everything that I did in junior high or high school.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just because I didn't go to school beyond high school.
Right.
Did a couple odd jobs in Wisconsin, and just like, here's a foam fabricated monster. Here's a makeup I did. Hire me, please, with my nice leather bound portfolio with like 110, like 35 mil, like 110 or 220, pictures in her disc film or whatever. Right. It's like grainy, crappy, and it's like, I'll hire you.
That's what you have. Yeah.
That's what you had.
I ended up, when I landed out here, I met up with a guy named Mike Levitri, a sculptor who was at the time making knockoff Freddy Krueger masks, because this was '88, and so he was selling to a couple of local magic shops and things like that. And so I'd work with him at his house painting these things up. He had a whole bunch of people, little cottage industry going.
Right.
And he was so nice. Yeah, he was so nice that he gave me a list of shop numbers.
Right.
So I started calling all the numbers. I called Steve Johnson. I called. I think I got an interview with Screaming Mad George.
Okay.
Who hated my stuff. And he was pretty blunt about it, which I totally appreciate.
Not surreal enough.
Yeah. No, he just was like, no, you need more work on your detail and on your anatomy and on your technique. I mean, it was just like, slap. Yeah. But that's okay. You needed to hear those things.
Right.
And it wasn't until I got down to the bottom of the list, and this little shop that had just started called KNB FX Group.
Yeah.
And they just happened to need a guy to pour some polyfoam.
Sure.
The standard entry-level bucket scrubbing, brush cleaning job,
Mix this, pour that.
And I think I had no idea what people earned at that point. So I had asked Mike, I said, what's like, for beginners rates? He's like, well, you should ask for like, $600 a week or something, like, because that seemed to be sort of a starting rate then. And so they asked me when we get to that point, so what are you making? And like, what do I know? I said, $600 a week. Well, we're offering $200. Done. Okay, I'll take it. Thank you. Yes, and I started with them, and that led to like a year and a half of straight work on Dances with Wolves, some really low budget thing called Night Angel, I think it was, Halloween 5, just ton, and then it ended with Tales from the Dark Side of the movie. Okay. Which was great. And so I picked up a lot of stuff in there. I started doing mold making and things like that. And
I'd actually misspoke yesterday because I got my two films confused. Yeah. It was Dances with Wolves. I didn't work on Dances with Wolves, but I remembered building buffaloes for Wyatt Earp. Right. Because that was my first shot at KNB was. Really? Yeah, I was telling the story yesterday where Howard called up Mike Deek and said, you got anybody over there who can do some foam fabrication? And he goes, yeah, I got a guy sitting here right now. He's not doing anything. I'll send him over. And so I went over there, and it was a dead deer that was draped across a horse. They had a pelt and a skin, whatever like that, and I just had to stuff it and make it look like a deer. Sure. And then it was, I think I came over to do that one thing. And he goes, well, you got like a week and a half to finish this thing up. And then I was there for 5 years. Yeah. So
that's how it works.
That's how it works.
It's absolutely amazing.
Always just ask if they can get 2 weeks worth of work. You'll be there for 5 or 6 years.
Absolutely. And I spent the bulk of my career there. But I remember why we started on this story. So we were talking about caricature and things like that, an icebreaker. So I'm this new guy at KNB in '88. It's a small little shop in Chatsworth. I'll never forget it. I just absolutely love that place. It's it's probably similar size to this. It's great little but I just thought it was like the biggest, most amazing palace so I just sort of kept my head down and poured chemicals. And then at one point, I think Howard was getting married, and they were very nice and invited me to the wedding. Like, oh my goodness, that's just wonderful. So you got to bring a present. I had no idea what to bring, so I just did a caricature of them, and I hadn't met his then wife Sandy at that point, so I didn't know what she looked like, to be honest with you. I think she may have walked by the shop
just
once
a veil,
just to visit. I kind of did that. I did. It was the old gag of nobody has the ring. Who has the ring? That kind of thing. And she's standing there with her hand on her face. It's like, there you go.
That's how I get away with it.
Exactly. So.
That's great.
But yeah, that was the start of it, and they loved it. They thought it was funny, and okay, fine. And I started doing those things. And, And
we just look forward to the Christmas cards.
Yeah, and the Christmas cards started not too.
And those were full blown. I mean, it started out, I remember, as drawings. Yeah. But then they went into full blown paintings.
Yeah, and then sculptures actually.
Oh, really?
Points. Yeah, we did a Rankin Bass satire, parody, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
And so I had to actually do that 3D. That was one of those things. So yeah, do it. And that was when Bob was still partnered with the boys. So it was all three of them, and I forget who was Herbie the dentist. Bob was the Bumble, and angry and all that stuff. It's a typical Bob caricature thing.
We love you, Bob.
Yes.
Are you watching?
And Howard was Yukon Cornelius, I believe that was the thing. So.
Well, he has to be.
Yeah, of course.
He's got the best beard.
There are certain things that just lend themselves to, But there was a lot of that stuff. And then the characters just started, like the table paper stuff you're talking about. And again, it was one of those things where I honestly don't know how I wasn't fired so many times, because you push boundaries.
They were afraid. They didn't know what you'd draw next.
Well, there was always the 2/3 rule with those guys.
Right.
Basically, if 2 of the partners laughed, then I pretty much figured I was safe. Yeah, and
outvoted.
And to be honest, nobody ever got really angry
No.
at me.
No.
And if they did, it was because I really overstepped a boundary, and
Right.
I deserved it. So.
And then they probably went, "Buddy, he was right."
Yeah, So, but those guys were awesome about it. And
Right.
So yeah,
No,
I mean, like you said, it led to the cards and
Right.
other things. So.
I'm trying to remember. Were we on set a lot? You were on Spawn, right? On set?
No.
Were you not
really.
on set?
No, I was mostly in the lab doing other stuff, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we had TV shows and stuff going on at the same time.
And that's the thing. To this day, some old film or something will come up on TV.
Yeah.
I'll be watching it, and something's familiar all of a sudden. It's like, I worked on that. And I'll watch the credits go up, Ted Haines, KNB FX Group. And it was like, I couldn't even, there were times in 1 week we could work on 4 or 5 projects,
Right. Oh, yeah.
So I was doing Chicago Hope and ER when they first started.
Yep.
Ally McBeal, we did stuff. Picket Fences.
Picket Fences. Oh, Picket Fences.
Picket Fences.
That was like a nerd heaven day. I remember that.
Something.
Working on the pilot with did you work on the pilot with the cow udders?
No, I did not.
Yeah, there was some part of the story where the sheriff is going around town taking care of things, and there's a farmer whose cow won't give milk, and the udders are horribly distended, and the automatic milking machine's not working. So Tom Skerritt, the lead character, has to get under the hood, so to speak. He's trying to get under there, and I guess this is a thing that can happen. I guess udders can burst or something like that, and so it dumps a lot of milk in his face. And
so did you have a fake udder on a cow?
We sculpted we had a plastic cow's rear end, I think, if I remember correctly, as a sculpting base. We quickly sculpted a set of udders, just latex.
Right.
And I believe it was Ron Pipes and I and Greg. Greg was there to just sort of supervise and stuff, and Ron was there to help lay hair and do some other stuff. So we did makeup on a cow. And so we glued this thing on with 355.
As one does in this industry.
Yep, and stick on this udder and then lay hair over it and all this stuff, and it looked great. Everything worked. But the great nerd moment was that it was Tom Skerritt, obviously from Alien.
Right.
And then
I was going to say from MASH.
Charlie Halloran.
Oh yeah,
from the Thing.
The Thing.
And so they're watching us do the application of this prosthetic, and they're talking about these stuff that they've done on their movies. He's like, and O'Halloran's talking about, I was on the cover of this magazine called Fangoria once because of this thing they did for me on this movie called The Thing, and I'm just sitting there going, oh my God!
Yes, I
my head's about to explode.
I have the issue in my back pocket. Will you sign it?
We had no idea who was going to be on set. He was just day playing and stuff. So.
Well, who's the other guy that was on that show too? Was he played the mayor of the town in Picket Fences.
Yeah.
And he was from The Thing as well. The Clark.
Oh, really?
What I can't remember the actor's name.
Richard Masur, is it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Richard Masur. Yeah. And he played Clark. So he was on that show as well. And I made a frozen dead body of him.
Right. Yes.
Because we did Zelda Rubinstein.
Yep.
She was on the show. And I think that was a tiny bit of a running gag on that show for a short bit because Bill Hunt and I built the frozen body of Zelda Rubinstein first. And because she had fallen into a freezer.
Right.
So we had to do all this frozen stuff, whatever like that. And then they did the same gag with Richard Masur. Like that, and so I did a big body of him with the frozen crystals, and I think Bill Hunt again or somebody had sculpted the head. I can't remember at that point. I know Bill and I did the Zelda.
Yeah, I remember him sculpting that, and I remember it was a thing of she was leaving the show.
She was leaving the show.
Yeah,
and it could. We had to make it look like her, but not necessarily look like her for some legal reasons with the show. So a little bit more ice on the face, a little bit more ice, and I got to take both of those to set, which was really fun because the show took place in Rome, Wisconsin. I grew up in a town, Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin, and just maybe like 15 miles, 20 miles north is Rome.
Right.
And I remember talking to them on set. And they found out, oh, do you know Rome? And I said, I do know Rome. And they said, oh, is our show anything like Rome? I said, no. Rome's an intersection. And it has like a volunteer police department or a volunteer fire department. It's got a gas station, and there's like an old house here. Like that. And I said, that's Rome. It's unincorporated. And they're like, really?
Yeah.
How do we miss that one? I was like, I don't know, TV show. Second time I show up with the Richard Masur body, because there was a rig. They were lifting it out and it was supposed to tap like a door jam.
Yeah.
And there was a ring like built right into the butt of the cake, and they could just pull that ring and the head snaps off. So I had to go on set and show them how to do that and everything.
Yeah.
And I remember Tom scared. He goes, "Oh, it's our Wisconsin expert again." So that was my two big things on that show.
Yeah. But there was so many shows like that during at KNB during that time. I mean, they're just constantly working. And
I remember having fun. We did, for a short while, started doing some fun little things within the shop. And I think that was the thing, is everybody got along in that shop.
Yeah.
I mean...
Even when you didn't, you did.
Even when you didn't, you did. And I mean, the bosses equally. I mean, Howard always had the barbecue in the summer. Greg would do the Christmas parties at his house. Bob would show up at those. I don't think we ever went to Bob's house for anything. But but it was all a very big family kind of get together type thing. So that was a ton of fun. But my point was going to be something about
the things that we did in the shop.
That was the thing. So just kind of morale boosting sort of things. Do you remember when the first one was like we brought in baby pictures. And it was like, they were on a big bulletin board, and it was like, guess who's who? Yeah. Guess who's the baby type thing. And I think like everybody threw a couple of bucks into a pool, and whoever like guessed the most or whatever like that, they won the cash. So it was no big deal. And then we did the other one, which was, it was like fake something. It's like, it was like a legend or something. Or do you remember that one?
I don't remember that one, no.
We did, I went out with a couple of guys. I know it was Henrik. Henrik might have been one of them. But I did the Frisbee wrapped in tinfoil.
Okay.
We would throw them, and we had like 3 guys standing way away from the Polaroid. Yeah. And I took and everybody's pointing up like the UFOs like that. And we did like 2 or 3 Frisbees in a row. It's like but then the other contest that we did, we had a worst of the worst contest and a best of the best contest. Do you remember these?
Those I do remember.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we had to bring in a picture.
Yeah.
Of either the best thing that we felt we had done professionally at that point, and then the other contest was the worst of the worst contest. Yeah. So we had to bring in...
Which I won.
Which you won.
Yeah.
Well, we had to bring in a picture along with a written excuse as to why we thought it was the worst.
Yeah.
And so I brought in from Seed People, what I had built. And I was a really...
Was that the Happy Star?
It was either the Happy Star or the Shooter character. And like that, I mean, these things were made out of they were sculpted. Yeah. And I mean, like, we used hemp and rubber, and they were ridiculous. Perfect. And they were heavy, and they were terrible, but they were lovely. And I thought, I got this nailed. I'm going to win it. You bring in what? Do you remember what it was?
Yes. There was when the guys left in that first year I worked there to go on set for Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. Okay. Shannon Shea stayed behind, and we got a gig to do a pilot for a show called The Hitman, which is basically a Mission Impossible meets Steven Spielberg kind of thing. If you can find it on YouTube, it's absolutely hilarious. Where this guy, who's a Steven Spielberg type filmmaker, uses his crew of technicians and great riches to right the wrongs of the world.
Right.
And he has to convince this evil landlord who's about to kick these people out of their tenement or something like that they're the special chosen ones of this alien race. So they bring the guy up to the alien spaceship, and so we had to create a couple of aliens. And so Shannon, and they were just supposed to be standard gray, big head, big almond-eyed creatures. And Shannon sculpted the hero one, and it was the big head, and then there was a separate appliance for the mouth. And I sculpted the backup one. And I really thought I was hot stuff here, man. I'd made it. I'm sculpting. I'm doing this great stuff. I'm painting. Whoa, this is looking good. I look at it now, and it's like, oh my god, it's best
terrible. Not to have pictures of that stuff. Yeah. You just remember how good it was, but it's like, no, there's photographic evidence.
Yeah, that was the giant suck right there. And so I had that picture, and I brought that in and popped that right up on the board
along with your excuse.
Yeah. Now I thought only the people who were participating in this contest were going to be judging it. But no, there were so few entrants that you opened it up to everyone. So everyone comes by the board and goes, that stinks. It's like, which is delightful.
Yeah, I think some of these were my idea. But the funny thing is the fact that you win.
Yeah.
And probably the giant cash prize of all of like $15.
Ooh.
But you win, but you win not only the contest within the shop, but it's something that you created at KNB.
Yeah.
And I think Howard was kind of like, oh, hey, you did that here. That's not cool.
Sorry. Yeah,
Like, I don't know, you made me do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's. Oh man, no, that was a good show. That was interesting. And
Yeah.
speaking of Shannon, I have to say about there are people, I'm sure you've had them. Every person has them in their life that teach you very important things.
Right.
And as far as caricature goes, I have to keep giving Shannon props for this because he altered the way I looked at doing caricatures.
Okay.
Because again, I thought I was just hot stuff at this one point, and when I would do a caricature of myself, I thought, I'm making a caricature of me. Yeah, it's funny, and it's like, no, it was a very nice looking, very complimentary.
Every time you
to
draw
myself.
yourself, you look like Sean Connery.
Yeah, it was a little weird. So there was this thing. We were in the middle of Dances with Wolves, and Shannon was the shop was very small at that point, and he needed at least one table clean that he could lay out all the pelts on and whatnot, because they had all of these furs that they were doing. And of course somebody would come over and lay something on it and completely screw up the nice clean table paper.
Right.
So one day he just had enough. And he stands up in the middle of the shop and says, everybody, I need your attention, in that Shannon Shea way of his. And basically just ridicules everyone and says, this table is to remain clean. And then he goes away. And so I think I'm very cute. And I walk over with a Sharpie. And I draw this picture of Shannon Shea with big buffalo horns and a big buffalo snout, looking at him, and saying, now you stay away from this table now, and whatnot. Oh, I'm so funny. I come back like a half hour later, and off of my drawing, he's drawn off to the side a profile version of me.
Right.
Drawing this drawing, and it is the most insulting.
The Norman
version of me.
Rockwell,
Yeah, yes, it's just me going like this. It's a profile version. I've got this huge beak, no chin, but the thing was, it was totally right. It was absolutely perfect. I mean, he has an unerring eye for seeing
And you're
exactly.
like, oh, I look like that?
Yeah, exactly. And then I realized that's what I got to do now.
That's funny.
And so he totally reshaped my way of doing this stuff.
Well, speaking of that,
Yes.
your art.
Okay.
You had to have brought along.
I
did you
brought
bring
some things.
some caricature-ish.
Yes.
And I know you brought some other stuff that I definitely want to have everybody see.
we don't need to take a look at this.
Okay, that's
For-
fine.
right,
Whatever you want to show.
Just for now.
But yeah, let's talk about.
Okay.
I know we've got probably 10, 15 minutes
I
left.
want to make sure you've got time. So, like I said, I've been doing my own thing of late, and I've been lucky enough to be in some group shows at some local galleries.
Right.
Creature Features was a great place to do a lot of this stuff, because
Right.
it's all the kind of pop culture-y, horror, sci-fi stuff that we all love.
Right.
There's a new place that I'm showing at called the Surgarmynt Gallery in Pasadena. They're big on Halloween because their gallery is right next to the house.
Okay.
That
to
is the Michael Myers house.
The Halloween house.
The Halloween house. It is
Okay.
right next door.
Excellent.
And so every Halloween, the owner, Sarah Rose, she does a Halloween themed show, but this year she decided to do something different, and she wanted to introduce haunted houses as part of the theme. So I'm not much of a landscape painter. I mean, I'm about people and things, but she's like, I want you to do something for both. I'm like, okay. So finally I decided on a mashup. So Halloween the movie meets the Haunted Mansion. And I decided I was going to do a parody of the famed stretching portraits that everyone loves from the Haunted
You
Mansion.
go into the first room.
You go into
and
the first room.
This room is stretching. Okay.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then you see all these things. And specifically...
If you haven't been to Disneyland and don't know what we're talking about, we're very sorry.
But you can find them online. Just look up the
online.
Disneyland Haunted Mansion Stretching Portraits.
Right.
Again, whoever's watching this doesn't know about it. Anyway. But a lot of people have done parodies, but I was surprised to find they'd never done one with Halloween.
Sure.
So I decided to tell the story of Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis's character, throughout the years of being in the Halloween film. So this is the first portrait from the first movie, Halloween 1970.
So you can imagine this like just growing
and stretching, and
yes,
this is the parody of the young lady holding the parasol on the clothesline with the alligator.
The shadow.
The shadow.
Brilliant.
Then there's another. This is the one from Halloween 2.
I'm going to stand up and.
Oh, well,
and
thank
hold
you.
these.
Can that be seen? All right.
Looking okay, David?
It's I'm in the wide.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's very.
Sure.
We'll see. So this is basically.
We're definitely going to make sure there's links and everything so you can look at Mark's work. So.
Cool. From Halloween 2, the stretching portrait is 3 guys sinking into quicksand. So that
right.
was what I felt would work here with the flammable gases and things like
Right.
that. Then we jumped to Halloween H2O because, again, I wanted to keep it all about Jamie Lee Curtis.
We'll do that.
And so this is a parody of Grandma on top of the gravestone. And since she uses an axe to, well, spoiler alert, to take care of Michael Myers. It's not Michael Myers. I thought that one would be perfect.
I haven't seen it yet. Come on.
And then the last one from Halloween 2018, the most recent one. There was the Haunted Mansion portrait is a gentleman in a tailcoat, but no pants, just underwear and socks and shoes, standing on top of a barrel of dynamite. So, of course, the end of this film, she's rigged a trap for Michael. I figured this is great. And then just as a little extra, I wanted to include Michael Myers' little craft project here, which is, of course, the pumpkin that he makes out of Officer Francis, a.k.a. Christopher Nelson's head. So that was the thing I wanted to do there. And
Those are fantastic.
yeah, so that worked out well. I only had a month to do these.
Those are great.
And
then, so where can everybody see your work? I mean, you're on Instagram,
Right.
you're on Facebook.
Yes, it's at Mark Tavares Artist on Instagram, at Mark Tavares on Twitter, but I don't really post there. Basically, go to Instagram, at Mark Tavares Artist. My website is www.marktavares.com. Very clever.
It works.
Yes.
It's your name. Yeah, you found it.
Yeah, and then I got it early enough. That was amazing. And then shop.marktavares.com is my big cartel store where you can pick up paintings and prints and stuff like that.
That's great.
And then this is going to be up at the Surgarmynt Gallery in Pasadena. They're selling these prints through that site.
Okay.
So you go to sugarmynt.com, SUGARMYNT.com,
Okay.
and you can get them there.
Now you do a lot of other stuff. I mean, one of my guests tomorrow morning,
Yeah.
which was a roll of the dice and said, I've seen him at every Monsterpalooza. I love his work. I'm going to call Dana Gould.
Yes.
and he goes, I'll do it. That sounds great. And I was like, cool. But I mean, you've done a lot of work with Dana.
Yes. Yeah.
Which for his shows, Stand Against Evil.
Yep.
And then, but for other shows, so
Well, this started-
kind of like crew gifts type things that people ask you and commission you. What are some of those projects that you've done?
Those are fun. I mean, one of the ones I'm very proud of is a friend of mine who is a prop master, worked on Justified, the Timothy Oliphant series from 2015, whatever. I was a huge fan of that show, and they were coming into their last season, and he wanted to do a gift for the crew.
Right.
So he asked me, he said, can we do like a Mad Magazine style portrait of the whole cast? And I was like, yes, we can definitely do that. And so I did that. We printed up posters, and we gave them out. And I made sure that, in addition to what I was charging him, I wanted to get an autographed print of the entire cast. So he got me that.
That's great.
And it wasn't until later when I found out they were starting to put out the final season of DVDs and whatnot. I guess there's some little extras on the package where they're talking about the last day of shooting and everybody's, giving hugs and all that stuff. And Erica Tazel, who's one of the cast members, started singing, it wasn't until they brought out this piece of art by this guy named Mark Tavares.
Oh,
and I'm
great.
like, oh my God, it's like,
it's in my heart.
she's mentioning my name. Yeah, so that was just a huge thing for me.
That's great.
My relationship with Dana started back at KNB, on Super Adventure Team, a Thunderbird style puppet show that
I worked on that a little bit too.
Yeah. Okay.
Interestingly, though, not doing any fabrication or anything like that, I was helping build sets.
Yeah. Really?
I was building. We were building the rooms and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
I was helping do all the panels and things like that, and cut out windows and doors for all the miniature puppets.
Yeah.
I did a lot of tech work and stuff. I think so. Casting some pieces. You guys were sculpting, I think,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, I was sculpting all the puppet heads.
So yeah, so you started working with Dana on that.
So I started with that, and he's always been a great guy. After I left KNB, and we stayed in touch, and whenever he's had something that requires something a little bit more cartoony, he'll come to me and ask me. I've done some design work for show pitches, like he's trying to get some animated stuff going and things like that. But when it came to Stand Against Evil, Autonomous Effects, I believe, was doing all of their stuff. So they didn't need any monster designs or anything like that. But when it came to the end of the year, he wanted to give out cast and crew gifts.
Right.
So the first one we did was a lunchbox.
That's fun.
And that was it is amazing what you
Like
can
the
get.
old-fashioned metal.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can get printed these days. Now
Yeah.
they're not stamped and printed like the
Right.
old ones, but there are companies that will make they take these blank metal boxes and put the stickers on them and stuff, and you just provide them with the artwork and they'll do the rest. And so I did it as close to what a classic old
Classic.
Yeah, I
don't
wish
think
I could have
saw
done
that.
a thermos too.
You've got that on your Instagram, right?
Yes.
I got to look at that. I don't remember seeing it now.
And then the last one for the last season, we were looking for something. We wanted to do a puzzle.
The puzzle, yeah.
And everybody does puzzles these days. There are lots of places you can do it. But Dana wanted one that looked like it had been sitting on a Woolworths shelf for
It's brilliant.
10 years. And so I had to find a place that would allow you to do a custom box along with the thing.
Sure.
And it was a Chinese company. I'd never worked with any place in China before,
Right.
and it was all through the internet. And so you get the templates. I made the artwork for the thing, and then it's like I've got to take the chance and just print one.
Right.
And they sent me the one, and it absolutely matched beautiful. So
Yeah.
that was,
I mean, it's
lucky.
beautiful. You guys got to go check it out because, like, you've got the feathered edges on there, like it's been
Yeah.
beaten up, but it's
Yeah.
all painted on.
Yeah.
It's just part of the print, part of the artwork, and it looks like the corners are dinged, and it
Yeah.
looks like the other edges are feathered, and it's beautiful.
I got so lucky with it. I mean, the template really lays out where everything should go, but
right
it's like
where it's supposed to be.
one little misalignment. You think, oh,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? But I mean, it was dead on, and
Yeah.
I'm very proud of that.
And that
piece,
show
too.
ran 3 seasons.
3 seasons.
Yeah, no, it was a fun show.
Yeah.
So
No, he's a great guy, and he's going to have a lot to talk about with his. He does the Plan 9 from Outer Space stage
Yep.
reading thing.
I
that's
just
coming
watched
up.
Planet of the Apes the other day.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, they have a ton of fun with that stuff.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's great. Well, this has been great. We've been sitting for almost an hour.
This is great.
So, Mark, thanks so much for coming.
Thank you
was
for
beautiful.
doing this. I really, really
No,
appreciate
you're
it.
very welcome. I
Yeah.
appreciate you coming and looking at the convention center. And
You're keeping it alive, man. This
I'm
is
keeping
great.
it alive.
Yeah.
We were gonna do like some off camera like like that, but we just could maybe get some cosplayers to walk across the land.
Sure, yeah.
But it's the convention center is not quite as big as I thought it was
Right.
going to be. But
No, it works.
somebody-
It's all good.
Control me.
I know. just busting in.
How you doing,
Just
Mike?
all
Oh, I
right.
can't touch
In
it.
the last couple of minutes, Steve Johnson, everybody. We're going to see him in a little bit in a second. So
Oh Lord, you know what and I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
but
no,
that's
go
just-
ahead.
That's what I do.
do you think?
That's what Steve does.
Do you know that Constantine and you both worked on that Charlotte Copley project?
I wasn't sure I was able to actually talk about that. I don't know if it's still in development.
No, you know that I think they're making it in South Africa, but yeah, but that's the fun because I had every designer in Michael Bloom
Yeah.
worked on it, you
Yeah.
worked on it, Constantine worked on it, and we.
you didn't
Is
need
this-
any
is this-
foam fabrication, did you?
Can we go X-rated here? Is this G?
Let's
PG?
keep it R-ish.
Then I can't say anything.
Oh damn!
I'm done. Thanks, Daniel.
Oh, no.
Hey,
Well, that was Steve Johnson, everybody.
Hey,
Thanks for stopping
hey,
by. He wanted to go X-rated. I said keep it
Ask
to
him
R.
about this project.
I will.
Because this
I
is
will.
a fascinating project.
Okay.
And my part in it was a lot of fun. I was doing product design.
Okay.
Yeah, just get him to talk
We'll
about that.
we'll get him to talk about it. Steve is so quiet and shy. I'll see if I can pull it out of him.
I know. Yeah, he really is.
We
Yeah.
got a question. Would it be possible to get prints signed from Mark?
Yes.
Tell
The
them, they didn't say. I'm assuming
okay.
that it's probably
They are numbered and signed
at Sugarmint.
at Surgarmynt. Yes.
And
Great.
then, then they said Steve is going to get Mark sued.
That was Henrik.
All right. Thanks,
Love
everybody.
you, Henrik. Thank you.
All right, thanks,
Thank
Mark.
you so much. I really
We'll do
appreciate
it. We're going to sanitize right now.
All right, there we go. Yep.
Bye-bye.
All right, see you later. Good luck.